gorgeous dishes today and yeah, have a chat.
We're super excited to see it, and I'm super excited to chat to you because I find it so interesting, this whole mindfulness in food. But first of all, where do you get the time? You're a busy mother of three, like all mothers. Like all mothers, like myself, I have three as well. We keep ourselves going, but you're a TV chef, you're a mindful eating coach, you're a co-founder of Food Oppie, as well as being a mum. So where do you get all the time?
It's hard. It's really hard, particularly I think lockdown and everybody been at home. That just added a whole other challenge. I'm an early bird, so I get up early in the morning, and I found, even over the last couple of weeks, I find I need to get up a little bit earlier than everybody else. So I'm setting my alarm, and my body kind of naturally wakes about 6, so I'm okay to kind of get up around 6 o'clock. I potter down, put on my little pot of coffee. If it's anyway, fine. I'll sit in the garden, just kind of, gather myself a little bit for the day. And I very, very much believe in gratitude. And I take a couple of minutes, just have my breakfast on my own, have my coffee, kind of plan out in my head how the day's going to go, what needs to be done, what needs to be prioritized, do my little bit of gratitude, just my 2 things that I'm grateful for today. Then the kiddies get up, and then it's all hell breaks loose, and it's breakfast, yeah, and then it's playtime, and then we try and do activities, kind of in the morning, and then we're really lucky. We've moved recently, so we live now really, really close to the Greenway and to the beach and to the mountains and the forest, and I suppose for us it was a huge lifestyle kind of move and choice. We literally, we sold the house, we sold the car, children out of school, contracts ended, and just lock stock, and kind of did all that. So it was really scary to do it all, but it's only in the last couple of weeks, life has kind of begun again, and we've moved into the house and we're starting to kind of feel it. So yeah, we've got the beach. If it's fine at all, we're on the beach. We've got the Greenway. We're, with our nets looking for crabs and up the mountains and all of that stuff. So yeah, it's really good. And then bedtime, do all of that jazz, and normally the laptop comes back out then, and it has to maybe around 10 o'clock at night for an hour, which I don't love doing, but I'll get to bed an hour, and then I have to go to bed because my brain is fried at that stage of
That's
the day.
the exact same. I think all busy mothers are the exact same. It's work, kids, and once they go to bed, you have to keep up on top of what you've missed for those few hours that you've been with the kids, and it is hard, but you do a great job. So you specialize in mindful eating, and I'm really interested to find out a little bit more about what that is exactly.
Yeah, so I qualified a little while ago, years ago, from an MBE program in mindful eating. So it came, I suppose, mindful eating came out of this mindful-based stress reduction. So John Kabat-Zinn was the guy who did all of that, and then out of that came mindful eating. I think sometimes when I talk about it at first, I fear that people kind of think, oh God, that's a bit wishy-washy, for want of a better word. And so genuinely, it is some of the most simple and real and practical advice that you'll ever kind of get. So I suppose it's about taking a breath, so the mindful piece comes from building in a meditation, but a meditation doesn't have to be and I'm sitting there for 40 minutes clearing my mind, because for most people, unless you're some Buddhist Zen master, that's not kind of how it goes at the start. All of these thoughts start coming into your mind. So it can be as simple as just taking a breath, and all you're doing is you're bringing an awareness to the act of eating and to eating. So I suppose, or too often nowadays, we are rushing, we are eating on the hoof, we are grabbing something, we're eating in the car, we're grabbing a sandwich, it's bowl of cereal standing at the island or whatever it is, and we're not actually focused on what we're eating. And that's what it's about. It's about bringing just a non-judgmental awareness and a curiosity to the act of eating. So I suppose eating is, the really good news is that eating is like a learned behavior. It's something that we've been socially conditioned to know how to do. We all do it a little bit differently because we were conditioned differently by our culture or by our families. So it's about, in some cases, breaking down some of those patterns and behaviors that we've built up, and then looking at how we can reset and change our mindset. And when we change our mindset, then we can change our behaviors and how we eat.
Wow. And what are the benefits and where do you begin? Like when you're working with clients, where do you begin this journey with them and how do you explain the benefits to them?
Oh, there's so many. In some cases, I suppose people begin with this desire maybe to lose weight or to just change their behavior for medical reasons, for lifestyle reasons. Some people, and I suppose this is where a huge part of it comes in, have been so engulfed in this diet culture for 2, 3, 4 decades. And we've been influenced, a whole generation, of my generation and my mother's generation by this, magazines and this specific body size and body shape that's supposed to be perfect. And it is what we all strive to be like. That is just
Yeah.
done, no more, and I suppose that's where I'm coming from, that we have this whole other generation of children and generation of people who need to understand that there's a right way to eat and a better way to do it, a more joyful way to do it. And it's just about no restriction is one of the huge things. No deprivation, no restriction. Nothing is off the cards, because as soon as you do that, you trigger your brain. You tell your brain you can't have something. What does your brain want? What you can't have all the time. So it's just about simple nutrition. How do we start? Really simply, you take a breath and you just focus in on your hunger levels. So the idea behind mindful eating is, if you're not hungry, you don't need to eat. Your body tells you when you're hungry. So it's about tuning into that interoceptive awareness of, how hungry am I right now? So begin and ask yourself, on a scale of 1 to 10, how hungry do I feel right now? And if you're at about a 6 or a 7, you're aware you've got a stomach, then the little rumbles start. You need to be eating. You probably should have eaten 20 minutes ago. And just start there. And then it's about looking at, okay, well, if I'm not hungry, but I'm standing at the fridge and I'm looking in longingly, what do I need? It's not food that my body needs. What do I need? And this is where then I help people to look at what their triggers are, why they're grazing, why they're mindlessly eating, why they're overeating. And it's like looking at, is it comfort? Is it loneliness? Is it boredom? Is it procrastination? Is it reward, celebration? And we all have our own individual set of triggers. So it's about trying to help people figure those out and then how we move on from that.
That is so interesting. And I'm sure loads of people are delighted to hear when you say no restriction. Do you know what I mean? Because you do, when you restrict yourself from something, you want it more. So I think people will love that you said that. And I think it's so interesting. And most television chefs have, chosen to focus on grown up food. Was it a choice? Did you always know you were going to go down the route and focus on family and children's food?
Yeah, I mean, some of the recipes that I do are very, very specifically designed for children. I have a master's in food product development and culinary innovation, and that was very much about designing food for specific target audiences, essentially. And for children, no more, as you know better than anybody from color psychology, there are certain foods in terms of color, shape, and texture that appeal more to children for so many different reasons, for color reasons, for their oral motor skills, for all of these reasons. So it's about making food playful and joyful, I suppose, is one of the things. But it's about building in simple, delicious flavors. So one of the principles that I kind of cook by, I guess, is something called umami. So umami is it was discovered by this Japanese scientist back in 1907, a guy called Aikida. And it's basically this delicious, deep, savory deliciousness that you get from food, and it naturally occurs in so many foods that people don't know about. So things like tomatoes, bacon, mushrooms, pork, prawns. And when you use ingredients that have umami, you exponentially increase the flavor and the deliciousness from the food. And I think for our kids growing up and for the next generation and for families, like, that's what it needs to be about. Simple techniques. My techniques are not difficult techniques. It's all about simple techniques, but getting that maximum flavor in so your food tastes delicious and you want to eat the food you make at home, because it's always going to be more wholesome, more nourishing, more better for you.
So what do you say to parents who are struggling? What are the few points that you begin to bring in, into conversation when parents are ringing you and saying they're struggling? Like, I struggle with my middle child, as we spoke about earlier, and it's a struggle to find exactly what he wants. So where do you start and what kind of information do you tell them?
Yeah, it's a very complex issue. I suppose the other part of my role at Foodoppy is, so I trained back in the States myself, and my partner Louise traveled to the States a couple of years ago to the pediatric hospital in Texas, and we trained in feeding therapy.
Oh.
And with that, I suppose the key thing to know for a parent is that it's it's not a behavioral thing. You know, sometimes it's very easy to dismiss it as being, oh, it's behavioral, or they're going through a phase. And absolutely, they are probably going through some form of cognitive development leap. But it's more than that, and it's normally very multifactorial. So we look at everything from the environmental factors to, you know, the seating arrangement at home and what seat the child is sitting in. You know, what are the noises? What are the external factors that are built in? And then in terms of, is there things like, you know, you're looking at sensory preferences that are built in, and then you're looking at the oral motor skills development that the child has. So it's a huge area to kind of to deep dive into. Then maybe something happened. Was there colic or reflux? Was there vomiting bugs? Is there, you know, so there's all these things that might have previously happened for the child. So we look at it in a very, very holistic way, and then put a plan in place to move forward.
God, it sounds so interesting. But like, as you said, you look at it very simply and look at the history of the child and see what has happened that has got you to this stage. It's so interesting. I'm sure loads of parents would love to sit down and chat with you. But you've spent a lot of time going back and forth to Finland. How has this influenced your style of food?
Yeah, Helsinki was brilliant. So a couple of years ago, I got presented with an opportunity. It was really funny. It was on the day of my birthday, and I remember thinking, I am not filling out an application form on the day. It's my birthday today, and I'm not really big into birthdays anyway. But I was like, oh, come on! I was like, oh, I'll just do it. But totally. So I had this big assessment to fill in, and basically it was a global opportunity to work with the University of Helsinki on developing this concept behind Foodopy all around food education. So I was one of a number of hundred of global applicants who applied for one of the 10 coveted places, for the year in Helsinki. At the time, I was 36 weeks pregnant with my Amelia, and I filled in the form in June, and she came along in August, and I got the call basically from the head, the CEO, and he said, look, you've been shortlisted. We need you to do a pitch and a presentation. So it's going to be to investors and stakeholders and psychologists and the dean of the university and all of these people. So I had to do an online virtual pitch. So I was 36 weeks pregnant. I got suited and booted, went to the office. I hid my bump under the desk, did my presentation, and I got a call 3 days later to say, congratulations, out of hundreds of applicants, you've been one of the final 10 that we've chosen to enter the program. And it starts on the 6th of August, to which I had to say, I'm due my baby on the 6th of August. I'm really sorry. And I swear I was so torn making that phone call. I was terrified because I was so afraid that they would go, well, you've lost your place. And it was amazing. The very first thing Auntie said to me was, family first, in Finland, family first. And I just, everything, my world stopped for a couple of seconds. You kind of go, okay, wow. So he very kindly allowed me to do half of the program virtually online. I have pictures, they're ridiculous, of Amelia in her little sleepy pod on the living room floor, me on the laptop on the living room floor. So we would have dropped, my eldest girl to primary school, come back. I was basically logged on from 10 till 4 doing the program, and then everybody would go into their little breakout groups and, do their, creative thinking or their design thinking process. And then everyone would have to pitch back, and I'd be like, I just need to feed the baby. I'm just going to change a nappy and I'll be right back. And then you're like trying to, okay, let's do the pitch. It was, that part was crazy. So then when Amelia was 6 months old, I went over. So I would go 1 week out of every month. And I did that for 9 months. And it was so hard, leaving them at the airport on a Sunday evening and not coming home until Friday, but it was extraordinary. I was with the Minister for Health, the Minister for Food Education, with the Dean of the University, and Finland are world leaders in food education. And I suppose that's my passion in my life, is getting to understand about people's behavior around food and changing their behaviors around food. So for me, if you want to learn from the best, go to the best. So yeah, it was amazing. They have this, again, simple philosophy where it's about joy. It's about food bringing joy and allowing food to be a joyful thing. And they believe in eating together, cooking together, sharing your food together. They very much believe in like teaching the next generation about the culture of their food, eating together, that family meal, sitting at the table together, you know, where their history, where their culture came from, very much their own food, you know, and it's simple, again, simple food, but just done really, really well. And, you know, I lived with Finnish families. I went to Finnish schools. Like I said, I really embraced the whole lot when I was there to understand it all. And that piece about allowing families to know that food is joy, and food can be joy when it's done right and it's shared together, I think is so important. With mixed messages in media and social media and things like orthorexia and malnutrition and obesity, it's like we lost the run of ourselves for too long, you know, and we've got to bring it back to our grandparents' time, or a simpler, better way of doing food in our families. So yeah, it was amazing.
You're so passionate, and it must have been such a great opportunity for you. And like, you know, when you're pregnant, yeah, you think things have to stop, but it's great to see and hear that you said, no, I'm going to do this, you know, because as a mother, sometimes you think, God, I can't do it, but you did it and you've learned so much. And what a brilliant, congratulations, brilliant experience. Can you tell us what your own favorite dish is? Or do you have one? You may not have one. You probably like everything.
That's so hard. You know what? I don't have one solid dish that I love. I love sharing food. My food is sharing. If I am sharing food with somebody, I am happy. So I love food that's like dipping food and sharing food. So something like a big bowl of hummus. Like you will often find me and my family, I'll make a big bowl of hummus, a couple of flatbreads. We will be all huddled around, scooping and licking and sharing and fighting for the last little bit in a bowl. And for me, that's what food should be. It's food like that. It's real food, you know, but sharing food.
Yeah. And you've just moved recently into a new home, so congratulations on that. But have you designed your perfect kitchen, or, you know, what way did you go about designing your kitchen?
Oh, it has been a long time coming, Adele. Yeah, I did. I worked with fabulous kitchen designer Charlie Crowley, and he was brilliant to work with. And we kind of worked together on designing the kitchen. A couple of little things, like something like I have my big island, and I have, you know, small little things, like I've got my bins underneath, so that when I've got my workspace here, so when I clear down, everything just goes into the bin. I've got two little drawers on the side, pulley outs, and I have all of my utensils in one, and I have my tea towels and my cloths in another. So you know, it's like things like that. Like I've got all my little utensils that I use. Everything is just in that little space. So it's just a hand reach away. Because when you're busy and you're demonstrating, and I do a huge amount of online cook-alongs now. And so it's, you know, it's, my kitchen is my workspace as well, very much so. So it's about just easy access to everything. And yeah, that was kind of a really important part. Lots of storage, but strategic storage, I think, was important. You
So
know,
it's all very functional. Yeah, very functional for you. Everything practical, functional, and a hand away, really, just that you can grab it. And do you have a list of utensils that you would consider as essentials in the kitchen for anybody?
Yes. Oh, let me think. Good knife, one or two, all you need. Peeler, vegetable peeler, 100%. My microplane. Actually, do I have it to hand?
What is a microplane, Jeannie?
Oh, aha! I have my microplane.
Oh, I have one of those. I didn't know what that was called. I had no idea that was called a microplane.
I have another one as well, which is longer. So they're just those small little graters, but you get so much use out of them. They're just grating garlic. So if you're too lazy to chop something, I mean, they're absolutely brilliant. And a whisk, I think, is and a good oven is a solid investment as well, I think.
Well, as I said, I'm not the cook in my house. My husband is an amazing chef. The only thing that I'm allowed to do is I make pizza from scratch. That's my thing.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's my one thing. I do it every Friday, and we have an uni oven. You know the uni ovens? Yeah. So we have that out. We've a kitchen out the back. So that's my thing. So yeah.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, so he's brilliant at cooking. But do you ever buy food that you can shove in the oven, ever? Or is that a complete no-go?
Oh, very rarely.
Yeah.
I'm a big, like something like halloumi. Yeah. You know, as an example, like I would slice that up, or like chorizo, and like things like that I can just slice quickly and throw on a pan. Like I will have that kind of food at hand so that I don't have to go big cooking from scratch. So I certainly have foods like that. Foods that come out of a box and go in the oven offer me zero pleasure. Like for me, from a very sensory perspective with food, it's the grating of the garlic, it's the stirring in of the spices, and that whets your appetite. It gets you feeling hungry, it gets you wanting, indulging in all that food. So for me, that's a huge part of the enjoyment. I lose some of the enjoyment if I don't have that part of the process. But I'm also a huge believer in batch, like double cooking. So if I'm doing a lasagna, I will, if I'm going to the bother, I will do a double so that I have half for the freezer. So I love my freezer, absolutely love. I use my freezer all of the time. And I have a new oven, which is a steam oven. So when I'm reheating food, it just means that I use the steam feature, and it reheats things like lasagna amazingly well. They're gorgeous.
Brilliant. So if you're talking to families about, shopping on a budget, these are probably the things that you tell them, cook in batches and things like that.
Yeah, and I mean, have a couple of really good staple store cook, like eggs. Eggs are my savior. Eggs, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Eggs get me out of so much trouble. Bread, that you can do like, a big toasted sandwich, or, make bread crumbs to put on top of pasta. So it doesn't have to be fancy. Like seasonal veg, couple of store cupboard basics, a block of real butter, like will get you out of anything. It adds flavor to everything. Little bit of Parmesan cheese. So it's about being clever about buying those ingredients, but she's using like really small amounts. Again, tinned chickpeas, tinned beans. So I make a beautiful pesto pasta, but instead of having like 6 chicken fillets or 4, I'll only use 2 chicken fillets, and I'll use a tin of butter beans. So again, it's more wholesome. You're getting in your fiber, you're getting in your vitamin B. It's a bit more sustainable, and then you're cutting down on the cost as well.
Okay, brilliant advice. And the pandemic has turned, everyone's life upside down, completely upside down. Now, you're probably used to doing a lot online anyway, but how has your life adapted in your work?
Yeah, a lot of my work was online anyway. So I suppose now just so much more. So something like I had my cookery school years ago at the Cliff at Lyons, or what was known as the Village at Lyons then in Kildare, and it is one of the most stunning locations in the world. It's beautiful, and like we had our own massive big vegetable patch out the back. There was apple trees. So when the kids would come to the cookery school in the summer, they would come in, or we would go out the back and we would pick our carrots, pick our onions, pick our leeks, pick our salad leaves, our herbs, bring them in. We would use those in the cookery school. I mean, there was one day we were making pasta, fresh egg pasta. We'd like clotheslines, like little airing clotheslines outside. We were drying the pasta on that. It was magical, and the children got to come, and the people who came to the cookery school, they got fully immersed in all of that. And now I've had to transition that piece of the business to online, where, as an example, the other evening I had a really big global corporate group all in my kitchen here with me doing a live cook along. So it's, you're still imparting the same skills, the same passion, the same top tips, but it's just, we're there in their kitchen, I'm in mine, but we're all together, and it's that community and that sense of being together and sharing and experiencing the same thing together is still there. But we've just had to adapt it to a slightly different way, I guess. And it's working, which is brilliant.
It's brilliant. Yeah, it is. It's changing, but your personality shines through, whether I'd say in reality or online, you have the personality to keep people engaged. So well done you, well done on all your achievements. You're doing great. And, you're inspiring because, I know what it's like to have 3 kids. It is a busy life, but you're lucky that you followed your passion and you're doing a great job. So thank you so much for your time. But I have a few quick fire questions for you. Okay, I'm just going to throw a few questions. Okay. So, fresh or frozen?
Fresh.
First food in the morning?
Orange juice.
Sweet or savory?
Oh, savory.
Favorite chef?
Ina Garten, Barefoot Contessa.
Most memorable meal?
Gilles Goujon restaurant. It's a 3-star Michelin restaurant in the south of France. Went there on my honeymoon. Amazing.
Oh wow, and it was on your honeymoon. That's so sweet. The one ingredient you couldn't live without?
Butter.
And your most used kitchen gadget?
Oh, wooden spoon.
Okay. Well, handy for everything. Thank you so much, Aisling. It has been a real pleasure. Thank you for taking the time out and supporting us at Inside Out. We've had loads of fun with you and we look forward to your cook along. So thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Adele. It's been an absolute pleasure to be involved, and you guys are doing such an amazing job. You and Gwen are absolute powerhouses for all that you've achieved for this. Thank you for allowing me to be part of it. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for your time. And I know you're going off to have a family break now, a well-deserved one. So have a really good time. Take care. Talk to you again soon. Bye. Thank you.